we have a very competent staff here to give us a citation of our speaker for this morning. A person of Miss Joy Iginova. Please, Miss Joy Iginova, you have the floor, please. We can't hear you everywhere.
Good morning. Citation of Dr. Vincent Chindindu Asogwa. Dr. Vincent Chindindu Asogwa hails from Enugu State, Nsukka, Nigeria. He's a graduate of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, UNN, where he bagged both BSc and PhD degrees in agricultural education in year 2000 and 2010, respectively. Also with a professional training at Sungai Center, Porth Novo, Republic of Benin in 2010. He's a seasoned academic who started his career as a lecturer at the College of Education, Nsukka, 2009 to 2012, and later proceeded to the Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi, Benue State, Nigeria, as an assistant lecturer, 2012 to 2015. And he progressed to Michael of Para University of Agriculture, Umudike, Abia State, Nigeria, 2015 to 2019 as a senior lecturer. He has, to his credit, academic research works and conference papers, which includes 27 conference papers,
Organization 20 and 12.
Dr. Vincent Chindindu Asogwa is a man with many interesting sides who oppose the career objectives of providing practical competence and valid services in a respectable institution. He is married and currently working at the Department of Agricultural Extension of Luyengo Campus, University of Eswatini, and he is facilitating this workshop from South Africa virtually. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to bring to air Dr. Vincent Chindidu Asogwa. Welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. The moderator, you have been doing a wonderful job. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me loud and clear, please?
We can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Yes, I want to start with the country. Eswatini is formerly called Swaziland, and it's a small country, but very organized, well organized and functional. So it's a country on its own in Southern Africa. Honestly, I will start by commending the effort of the college, the provost, deans, heads of departments, the LOC, especially the chairperson in the person of Dr. A.O. Olowa, and all the participants. This is a remarkable achievement, I must say that. And I wish other colleges of education will emulate from you for the growth and development of the country, as Dean has rightly pointed out, as the provost has rightly pointed out. I also want to appreciate my contact person, Dr. O.W. Olua, for suggesting that I should drive this bus. Not that I'm the best driver, but just that the opportunity is given to me to drive it for the next period we are to stay here. So as I pray to drive us safely to our destination, I wish all of us journey mercies as we journey to the topic. Now, I wish I can share my screen if the host can allow me. If the host can allow me to share my screen, I'll share my screen, please.
Yes, sir, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yes. I hope you can see my screen very well.
Yes, sir. We can see clearly, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Dean the provost has pointed it out that we're in the 9th biannual conference. And the theme is exploring entrepreneurship and industrial linkages for quality vocational education in post-COVID-19 era. But the topic for this workshop is fundamentals of conducting and reporting empirical research. Now, when I saw this topic, the first thing that came into my mind was what will be the relationship between the theme of the conference and then the topic of the workshop. I was wondering, but quickly I realized that when you place this workshop topic, fundamentals of conducting and reporting empirical research, where we have 4, you understand that empirical research links entrepreneurship and industrial linkages to quality vocational education. For you to have explore the opportunities that you have in your area, you must first of all go into empirical research to know what is on ground what has been on ground and what is not there, the gap that exists that you now want to fill. Because entrepreneurship is defined as the ability to identify an opportunity, use the available resources to benefit from that opportunity. So first of all, you need to identify the entrepreneurship opportunities around you, and it is empirical research will do that for you. Now, for you to also link the industries with vocational schools for quality vocational education, you must know different leakages that others have used in the field for you to either adopt them or improve on the one you want to do. And it is empirical research will expose you to these ones. Now, they are also talking of entrepreneurship, exploring entrepreneurship opportunities in quality vocational education. There is also entrepreneurship opportunities in empirical research. People write research these days that are sponsored by international agencies. So it is also entrepreneurial in that way. Now, the issue now is what are the fundamentals of this conducting and reporting empirical research? What do we understand by this word fundamental? I see it as the basics, the essential components, the important parts, the central parts of conducting and reporting empirical research. And having seen that way, that will take us to what we expect at the end of this workshop, that participants should be able to conceptualize empirical research, describe essential features of empirical research, identify the fundamental components of empirical research, build basic skills of empirical research, formulate an empirical research topic, create mental picture, a schematic diagram of how the above named or formed or formulated empirical research topic will be conducted. I also expect the participants to describe all the stages and the actions to report on the above named empirical research. Decide on what or which publisher or journal to publish the paper, their papers, and apply any gained fundamental competence to conducting and reporting this empirical research. Now, I told my contact person that the tools that we are going to use in this workshop is just one, and that is your own topic. You need to have your own topic. You need to have your own topic. That is what I told him, that will be the instrument we are going to use. The instrument we are going to use in the workshop is our own topic. And I have my own topic standby. So you can develop your own as we go, because workshop is works on, hands-on doing. You must have something to do as we move. The first question that comes into our mind is, what is research, before we go into empirical research? Now, research is an organized study or methodological investigation into a subject in order to discover facts, establish, reverse a theory, or develop a plan of action based on the facts discovered. Simply, re means again, search means to look for. So therefore, research simply means to look for again. And for you to look for, there must be a pattern you use to conduct that research. And that's why they say it is an organized way. It is systematic. It has a pattern that you carry out that investigation. It is not by carelessness. It's not just that you are going by, you have a research. It must have an order you carry your research. Now, research is a process and product. It is not only process, it is not only product. What we are doing now is part of the workshop. Then at the end, what we are going to produce is also part of the workshop. So the same thing in research. The process you pass, the step-by-step of actions you take to get to the end product, which may be a paper, is also research. And that paper that you have at hand is also the research. Research is an investigation that must be systematic. It has to be organized and logically carried out in order to, one, discover facts, which may be problem or solution. Exploratory research, establish or reverse or describe a theory, model or framework. Descriptive research, and then develop action plan to solve a problem or establish a cause-effect relationship for those in experimental study. And that we call explanatory research. You will also get predictive, prescriptive, and descriptive. You all do so constructive. You also have this type of research. Now, and next, the question is, what is empirical research? It is a systematic investigation. Otherwise, it is a research that is based on, one, experiment. It's based on observation and is based on measurement of phenomena as directly experienced by the researcher. As directly experienced by the researcher. If you are using one that is not directly experienced by the researcher, that is called, is not empirical research, and that is secondary data you are using. Empirical research is a type of research methodology that makes use of verifiable evidence in order to arrive at it. People can verify what you have said. In other words, it must be replicative. People can replicate that research before you call it empirical research. So now it is a research or investigation based on collection of primary data. Primary data is very important. If you are using a data that is not specifically collected for that research, but collected for another reason, that is not empirical research. Empirical research, you must collect data that is meant for that research you want to carry out. And we call it empirical research. It may be experimental, it may be real life experience, rather than ideas or theories, which you use to arrive at an outcome. Whether you are using, you can use data from literature review, like data banks, directories, and others, or results that are compared in theory. But those ones may just be to support your empirical research. Your result must be based on real life experience of the researcher for you to call it an empirical research. Essential features of empirical research will tell you what I'm saying. One is that the empirical research has an objective. You must have an objective to guide the study. We normally say objective guides the study. Now, you have also a research question or hypothesis, which is usually determined by the research objectives. It is not in all the empirical research that you have research question or hypothesis, but the research objective must be there. Now, in empirical research, it has a research design, a particular research design that you use. So that design is a planned action in advance that you know what you have set out to do. It also makes use of an instrument or materials that may be developed by you, adopted, or adapted. You either develop your instrument or adopt, taking another person's instrument to collect your own data without modifying it. But when you modify that instrument, you will not have adapted instrument. Now, the central theme of empirical research is gathering primary data. You must collect primary data for that study. A particular method for data collection and data analysis must be set out before you carry out that. There are some other ones, but these are the major issues in empirical research. These are the essential features of empirical research. Now, we have two types of empirical research, which we should all know. I'm just refreshing your mind because these ones, some of you know it, as I said, not that I'm the best driver, but I'm just asked to drive for now. Empirical research are divided into two. the experimental and the non-experimental. When you are talking of experimental, you are talking of a study, a research that you will manipulate, you manipulate some variables. The researcher will manipulate some variables, otherwise we call it treatment or intervention. And in that group, you may have pure experimental or quasi, otherwise not partial experiment. So we in experimental research, we have two types of experimental research. The true experiment, in which you have the experimental group and the control group. The experimental group is where you have the total control of all controlled variables, all controllable variables. Not all variables are controllable, but the ones you know that you can control. Then the other group, the one you will not control the variables. In education, there is one we call quasi-experimental. Quasi is partial. You don't have total control, but there are certain variables you have controlled for you to produce a result, for you to have a cause and effect relationship. The next one is non-experimental. That's the second type of experimental empirical research, is non-experimental. That is where you make just observation as those variables are, without any experimental intervention. You don't manipulate any variable. You just collect the data in their natural state. In that case, you may have field research, longitudinal research, correlational research, historical research, and you may also combine them. There may be a combination of all of them, or some of them. Now, we go to the fundamental components, the major components of empirical research. The major one, the central part of empirical research is introduction, literature review, research materials and methods, research methods, some call it methodology. Then the results, discussion and conclusion, and the publication. These are the major fundamentals. We are going to see them as we progress. Now, on my own, I have tried to conceptualize the fundamentals of conducting and reporting empirical research. And I started with the self-awareness of the researcher. The self-awareness of the researcher. If you, as a researcher, do not know much about you, you don't know your strength, you don't know your weakness, you don't have any opinion about yourself with regards to research, you may not carry out an empirical research. So it has to begin with you. You move out of yourself. So empirical research begins from the researcher. It begins from us. Before you now think of identifying a problem in your society, identifying a problem in your field of study, identifying a problem from literature, and then the problem you identify will lead you to the materials and methods that you are going to use. It is the type of problem that you identify will determine the type of materials and methods. And the materials and methods you have will determine the data collection, the type of data you are going to collect, and the analysis you are going to make. Then that gives birth to interpretation. If you collect qualitative data, you give qualitative interpretation. If you collect quantitative data, you give quantitative interpretation. And it is from the interpretation that you draw your conclusion. After your conclusion, you have publication. Then when you publish your work, people will now make use of it, and that is what we call application. Now let me tell you, you see this is an inverted pyramid. Now, if you look at it, self-awareness as tiny as it is carrying other ones. But I want to tell you that publication is broader than what you think about. When you publish material, you do not know how far it's going to go, and you don't know how far it is going to be applied. It is wider than what you think about. Any little material you publish, you cannot undermine it. I'll give you an example of what happened in the application. There is a boy who graduated from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Currently is in Lagos. He had the research just developed something. He read computer engineering and developed a software for the Skybank and Polaris. There is a acquisition going on between them. Then these people used it to advertise that they want people to come and invest. Within 2 weeks, this program raked in more than 50-something million naira for them. The guy was now telling me that he never knew that such a thing he developed from his computer could give a bank such money. That's what we are talking about application. You may have a work that you publish in Lagos, but before you know it, people will be calling you from Ethiopia, calling you from Japan. Please, can you send me this material? Because they want to apply it. So application is very important. Now, since self-awareness is the major part, what are the basic skills required of an empirical researcher? Since it has to begin from you, first one is self-esteem. Have a good opinion of yourself that you can do it. Since you know how to read and write, since the university has employed you, or the university has not even employed, but you have done your first degree, even if it is NT that you have, you can read and write and people will understand. So you can communicate. As far as you can communicate, have good opinion of yourself that you can do this empirical research. Not just depending on opinion paper, always and often. Now, open-mindedness and willingness to learn. You have to have that open-mindedness. You can learn from your student, even in primary school. You can learn from whoever, you are junior or senior. Just open your mind that you are willing to learn. You will learn. Good understanding and command of language. Make use of dictionary. I want to tell you that if I did not learn anything from my supervisor, I learned how to use dictionary from my supervisor, Professor S. Samuel Ojo Olaito. Even though he's a blind man, he has dictionary by his side 24 hours every time. You go there, you speak English, he will tell you, sorry, I don't understand English. A professor of 24 years will tell you he doesn't understand English, what you are saying. You say, read dictionary, let's see. You can get the preposition, the correct one to use. So you need to use your dictionary because you cannot memorize all language. Now, in-depth and current knowledge of your area. Don't say that you have acquired it. No, you keep on reading. Otherwise, you are going to have what is called dieback syndrome, where you reach to the point of a chief lecturer or principal lecturer, you say you have arrived. You just be staying at home, you don't want to research again. No, it is not that. You have in-depth knowledge of your area, and not only having in-depth knowledge, you need to be current in the knowledge. What is being invoked in the society. Observant in and outside your environment, so that you see the problem around there for identification. Have optimistic approach to issues. Whenever you see an issue, what occurs to your mind is, how can I solve this problem? And when you say, how can I solve that problem? You have started that research. How? Yesterday they were talking and say, how can we do? That's the entrepreneurship. How? It's not just knowing it, it's how do you do it? You have entrepreneurial mindset. The keynote presenter yesterday said something about entrepreneurial mindset. You will need to have entrepreneurial mindset. You have to have empirical research mindset, creativity and relevance, perseverance and stubbornness to think straight. Be stubborn to think straight. Don't be distracted. You start this empirical research, you keep it. You start this one, you keep it. You start this one, you keep it. You want to run to the other one, that one you think is better. You have to be stubborn in thinking straight so that you'll be able to finish. ICT and communication skills. If you are not ICT compatible or literate, you need to. We need to. It has come to stay, and we just need to embrace it. Teamwork and collaboration. I am believing that at the end of this workshop, we are going to have teams that we will collaborate with to have a work out. Then make research a fun. When you find joy in researching, I know when you publish one paper, the ripple of joy that goes into your mind, money cannot buy it. So what of when you have more research, you will be happy always. Then you have to understand that you are as important as your research to the society. Your research is greater than you in your society, because your research will outlive you even when you are no longer there. And there are people you cannot talk to, but with your research, you have spoken to them. So we now go over to the next part, which is introduction. And I see this introduction as an aspect of identification. Remember the schematic diagram we have there. We said after awareness comes the problem identification. All the introduction, I see them as problem identification. And you start by formulation of researchable topic. Where do you source your researchable topic? You can source it anywhere, even in the classroom while you are teaching. You can source it anywhere. You will see it because I know this document will be sent to you. Now, in your researchable topic, in formulating your research topic, you look at the presence of some variables, the dependent, independent, intervening, moderating, and controlling variable. I don't want to emphasize that because that one is common among us. Now, I want to go to the framework for formulating a researchable topic. And this framework makes use of 6W. In your 6W, you are going to see what? What is that you want to see? What is that you want to say? Can you still hear me? Can you hear me?
Go on, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear. Go on, sir.
Now, we have 6W. In your topic, you look at what, who, why, where, which, and when. Looking at your own topic, let me give you my own topic. I got my own topic, or I formulated my own topic from the theme of this workshop. And it reads, fundamental skill requirements. Fundamental skill requirements of colleges of education lecturers in conducting and reporting empirical research for effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. Fundamental skill requirements of College of Education lecturers in conducting and reporting empirical research for effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. The first question that will come into your mind is what? What am I talking? I'm talking of fundamental skill requirement that will make these people to research in this post-COVID. Who are you talking? Is College of Education lecturer. That is who here is already covered. Now, why do you want them to acquire this skill? For effectiveness in post-COVID-19. Where do you want to carry out this study? Is it in this where? You can get where in the context. You can also get here where in the location. Location, we can say in Lagos State. We can say in Southwest, we can say in Nigeria or African region. Then where, we can also say, is it in the university or is it in the College of Education? We can also say, where do you want them to have a skill requirement? Is it in empirical research or is it in teaching? Is it in methodology? It is also where. Then which now is talking about which level. All of them must not come in. You can take maximum of 4 or all of them anyway. Which also come in. It can be which level. Is it the lecturer that started new, the young lecturers, or the old lecturers? Then when do you want them to carry this? That's the adverbial clause of time. And that is post-COVID era. When the provost of the college was presenting her speech just now, she was talking about during and post-COVID. So we're now looking at what will they do during and after. So that is when. With this, if you have this, anytime you are formulating a researchable topic, You make sure that these things are well covered. Not all of them. You may not have where, you may not have which. It depends on what you are formulating. You may also not have time, like when. You may not have error. You may just formulate your topic. So, but it's very important to use this framework. It works, and many people have been using it. Now, in the researchable topic, you talk of the features. Your topic has to be impressive so that when people look at it, they will be impressed by this topic. It will catch them. Those who know this value are the people in mass communication. They give a concept, a catchy name, so that whoever is passing by will like to read it. It has to be attractive, concise, grammatically free. Then you also make sure you apply professional nomenclature. The one, like those of us who are in chemistry and biology, there are words they use there. You must be at home with those words and avoid abbreviations and repetition of some words. Now, I will also take you to abstract. I may not come back here. That's why I say I want to go this way. In abstract, we say it's a summary, but I intentionally put brief. You cannot have brief and summary. Brief of the important points. So, but I try to put brief here to tell you the emphasis on the smallness of what you are talking, the brief summary of the major points, and they must be in block depending on the journal you are writing. Single line spacing, and the words has to be between 150 and 250 as recommended by APA. The next one is list of keywords. This is optional, it is not compulsory. But if you want to bring it out, you bring maximum of 5 words from your work. It could be from the objective, it could be from the topics, the content. You get the major points there and you arrange them alphabetically. That is the recommendation of APA. Now, we go over to the introduction. We are still talking of introduction or problem identification. In our conceptual framework, in our conceptual schema, you remember it. Now we go over to the background. In your background, how do you write the background? Why I'm emphasizing this is because this is a workshop. We need to have something doing, and we do it practical. It's not just coming to speak theory and go. In writing background, you will have framework that you can use to build it. We have ABC framework. How do you write it? Antecedent. What has happened? What is the activity? The activity now is COVID-19. Now, what is the behavior or the benefits? How has it affected people? When we the advantages and the disadvantages. What are the shortcomings as a result of this COVID-19 with regards to empirical research? That means I'm writing my topic. That's what I'm saying. Now, when you state those things, what have people done? Those people who are affected, what have they done? And these things they did, what are the restrictions to their effort so far that they were not able to do what they are supposed to do? Like in this topic, the restriction is that there is a shift from what the lecturers have been doing to what they should do now. They were collecting data using a hard copy questionnaire, but these days, because we want to limit contacts, they can no longer do it. What do? They need to do something that will collect data from respondents without having physical contact with them. That is the gap. Now, what is the restriction? The restriction is that many of us are not compatible with ICT gadgets. So can you see how I've just formulated it now? With this, you say next is now, that's why we want to carry out this study, to find out the skill requirements. You move. Now, we have another one called 5W plus H framework. This one is talking about what? What is the problem? Who are those that are affected? Where are they affected? When are they being affected? Why do you think that they are being affected? What have they done and what is remaining that are being affected? And how do you want them to do it so that they will not be affected? This will give you the background. As you just use in your brain, you have this schematic diagram or map, you just be writing it and it will move and flow. Then we have next one, GS or SG framework, general to specific term or vice versa. Looking at my topic, I have fundamental skill requirements of College of Education lecturers in conducting and reporting empirical research for effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. You know that COVID now is popular, is encompassing, is larger than, is general than conducting empirical research. So I may wish to start from post-COVID now, that COVID has affected a lot of things, including conducting and reporting empirical research. I will say things about conducting and reporting empirical research, say why the lecturers have not been able to do this, and then I will move to why they need fundamental skills. So the fundamental skill requirement is the specific. So you can go that way. In writing statement of problem, you can also use this framework, ABC framework and the same framework. Then the other one that I will emphasize here is IRQ, IR raised to power 3 framework. What is IR raised to power 3? The ideal situation in the country or in conducting and reporting empirical research. What is the reality? What is on the ground? What is obtainable? The ideal situation is that lecturers are supposed to start collecting and reporting their data without being affected or constrained by COVID-19 era. But the real situation is that they are restricted. They cannot do it. Now, the restriction, why do you think that they are restricted? They are restricted because of inability to use the gadgets, the technological advancement to do what they are supposed to do without having contact with the respondents. Now, from there, we go to the root. Root is how. Root is now how. How. And that is your study. How will you go out of this? The root is to organize this thing you have organized, the workshop you have organized now. The root is also to conduct a study to identify the empirical skills and requirements. Then we go over to objectives. How do you formulate your objectives? How do you formulate your objectives? The objectives is what the study sets out to achieve. In this case, we have two types of objectives. We have the general objective and we have the specific objective. The general objective is the purpose of the study. Why the specific are those ones you want to find out, what you want to answer, those questions, that's the objective that you want to, that you use to guide the study. Now, for you to know whether the objective is satisfactory or accurate or not, you go and use the features of objective, which we have tried to bring out here. Currently, they are talking of SMART objectives, but looking at different frameworks, we were able to come out with this brief logic SMART-T. Otherwise, you can call it BL SMART-T. What is the meaning of brief logic SMART-T? It has to be brief, it has to be logical. For instance, looking at my topic, I have fundamental skill requirements of College of Education lecturers in conducting and reporting empirical research. I cannot formulate objective on reporting and empirical research without first of all formulating an objective on conducting empirical research. That it has to be logic. It has to be logical. Now, specific, avoid double barrel. The topic now, as you look at it, is double barrel because we are talking of conducting and reporting. Even conducting alone is enough for you to this topic. So at the end, we are supposed to break these topics in a way that all of us can be accommodated in the group. Now, the next we are talking is measurable, to ensure that the topic is measurable, quantifiable, and it has to be achievable. The objective also has to be relevant to the topic and time bound. You have to achieve it within the possible limited time. The next one that we added here is that ethical. Your objective has to be ethical. It has to be morally accepted in the society. You don't go and ask questions that you are not supposed to ask. If you are in education, you go and be asking the students or the respondents their HIV status. It is not your responsibility. So you have to follow the research ethics. Now, research question is usually determined by the data analysis and the interpretation, which you transform from the objectives. You transform the objective into research question. But for you to make sure that this research question can be answered, because we answer research questions and we test hypotheses. For you to ensure that the research question can be answered effectively, we have some frameworks here. We have PICO framework, population. What is the population in that? Like, I can formulate a research objective, identify that this study should be able to identify fundamental skill requirement of College of Education lecturers in conducting empirical research for effectiveness. So when I have this, I can change it into research question and say, what are the fundamental skill requirements? When I do this, the first thing I will check is who are going to respond to this question. Are they there in the topic? Or what the topic, the objective, did it cover the population of the people that I'm talking about? What is the intervention that I want to do? And what will be the outcome? You remember I said for effectiveness. So the outcome is there. The hypothesis can be null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis. Now, we go over to significance of the study. Significance of the study is another important factor in conducting and reporting empirical research. And that is the contribution that the study you are studying will make to literature. In reporting it, in writing significance of the study, you use 2WH framework. And that is who, what, and how. Who will benefit from this study? What will they benefit from? And how will they benefit from it? You just need to, with one sentence, say the beneficiaries of this study are lecturers of agricultural education, or lecturers of business education, or lecturers of college of education, administrators, and rest of them. What will they benefit? The study will identify the fundamental skills required by them. That is what? How will they use it? They will adopt this in conducting their research, like formulation of research topics and other things. Types of significance of study, we have practical significance, those things that the study will contribute practically, and then theoretical significance. How will your study contribute to the understanding of a theory? Or how will a theory make your research to be understood by the readers? We talk of policy significance. What contribution will your study make to the policy of the country? Or how is your work contributing to the policy that is already in existence? Or how is it following the rules that the policy has implemented? Now, the next is scope. The next is scope. In scope, you need to find the extent to which the study will cover in terms of the content. Those are the purpose and the objectives. In terms of the population, the respondents, the time duration, the model you are going to use or theory, and then the geographical location. What I want to note you here is that in your geographical location, when you want to write on your geographical location, you write it in clockwise direction. Don't write the Lagos is bounded by this in the east, this is in west. No, you write, if you start from east, you go in clockwise direction. It must not be east, west, north, and no, no, no. It has to go in clockwise direction and report so that you take the person around the state or your area of the study. Now, the next on the identification of problem is limitation. Limitation. It is important to note that limitation is all about methodological restrictions. Those things that your methods could not do. You will see them here by the time you get this document. But what I want to emphasize here is that from the scientific database, it has been argued and agreed that money and time are not part of limitations. What is the argument of the researchers? Scientists are saying that one should be able to conduct a study within the limit of your money you have, of the money you have, and within the time frame that you feel you can carry it. So that's what they are saying. If you cannot do it within that limited time, you know, so that you don't rush to the field and come back and say that it is time. That is what the scientists are saying. So the next one is literature review. After limitation, scope, you go to literature review. It's still part of problem identification because you are still trying to convince the readers of what the problem is for you to conduct this study, for you to make findings. While you are reviewing literature, you also find the gap that is existing and how others have done and what they are going to do. In literature review, you see theoretical framework, conceptual framework, related empirical study, and summary of literature review. Why? For us who supervise students. But this may not be in a paper that you want to publish. Now, but some of them are supposed to be there. I will go to browsing of literature. In browsing literature, I don't know, now that I cannot see the participants, but I know that they are there. This one, I wanted us to do it practical. In browsing literature, it is better to use question than just browsing it that way. Take, for instance, if you want to browse empirical research, instead of saying meaning of empirical research, you say, what is empirical research? The number of literature you will find may be smaller than meaning of empirical research, but I assure you that even though it is smaller, it is relevant and tangential to that answering that question you asked. And by that, it has reduced you the labor of diving into literature to sieve out those that are not relevant and those that will not be used. I also encourage you to put PDF. Why you say what is empirical research, you put PDF. This will bring out only those works that have been published and that have been reviewed because they're always in PDF. Now, if you are browsing also, you have invited commas. When you have invited comma in a work like this, what is telling computer is that you are restricted to giving you information in this. If you say what is empirical research, you put it in invited comma like this, you are telling computer, I don't need any other thing outside answering this question. And the result will be superb for you. Then, when you put and, take for instance, we have conducting and reporting empirical research. When you put conducting and reporting empirical research in invited comma, you are telling computer that you only need works that contain 2 of them. Anyone that does not contain 2 of them should be removed, and computer will remove that for you. Then there is also another one, or you may have conducting or reporting empirical research. What you are saying is that you are telling computer that if you find a conducting, bring it. If you have reporting, bring it. So either of them can go. But when you say not, for instance, I want to browse fruits. I say fruits in parentheses, not in parentheses, vegetables. So what I need is fruit, not vegetables, and computer will do that for you. Then assessing literature. When you use search engines, this is supposed to be hands-on doing. When we search something like Google Scholar now, if you use Google Scholar, let me see if, can I wish I can do that. If I can share my screen, I would have liked us to go to Google Scholar. I will show you some things there. When you go use Google Scholar to search whatever you want to search, instead of just using ordinary Google, we call it Google Scholar Advanced Search. It will bring out what you need in seconds. It will tell you the number of results that it has produced. And by the left side of it, you will see where if you need literature that is current, it is there. You click, you need literature only in 2018 to 2020. With that, the Google search will just select all literature that is within that range. And that will make your work very current when you are writing empirical research. Then when you have literature, we have ways of selecting it. You search for relevant literature, evaluate the source of that literature, identify the themes, debates, and gaps, outline the structure, and write your own literature. These are the things that will guide you or help you. The next one is assessing framework. Assessment frameworks. When you have literature, it's not all the literature that you have, you will just use in, excuse me. It is not all the literature that you have that you use. There are frameworks that you use. Most important literature, we call it MANIC. Most important literature. Do you agree with the content information? Not agreeing, if you are not agreeing with the content information, do you keep it or you throw it away? Then is the literature you are agreeing, is it interesting? If it is interesting, is it confusing you? Do you need to keep it and find more things there or you remove it? These are the things that you need to do. Another one that is recommended by Research for Life by United Nations, FAO, United Nations, is AA0CC. And that is, who is the authority of that work? Who authored it? Is it a specialist in your field or not? Then you talk of the accuracy. What is the information? Is the information accurate or misleading? Then what is the objective of reporting or publishing that work? Is it politically motivated or just for academic purpose? That is why when you are picking some things in newspaper, sometimes if it is not written by a specialist in that field, people discourage you from using it. That is when we talk of objectivity, because some of them may be political. We also talk of the coverage of that work. Is it in-depth or shallow? Another one is currency. When was this published? Is it 2019 or was it published in 2000, 20 years ago or 10 years ago? These are the things you need to put in practice while reviewing literature. Then citation, we have three things why you are citing literature in the body of the work. One is quoting, second is paragraphing, and the third is summarizing. In quoting, you put it in inverted comma to show that you are quoting verbatim, word for word. Now, if you are quoting more than 40 words, the APA recommend that you indent that paragraph. Now, the one we use commonly is paragraphing, where we say John stated that, we paragraph it. But at the end, you see that the plagiarism will be high. So now we are encouraged to summarize our work. How do you summarize? Putting the idea of the author in your own words. using your own words to describe the idea of the author, the way you understood it, and still referencing that author, still giving credit to that person. If you don't give credit, it becomes plagiarism. Now, writing literature review, make sure that you use grammar, spelling, punctuation, and avoid according to repeatedly. Use APA, Harvard, or anyone according to, be consistent in your citation. If you are writing using present tense, use present tense continuously. If you are using past tense, like John stated that, you will not go to other place and say Tafik says, Tafik 2010 says no. You have to be consistent in your tenses. Then we also ask you to create a pool of reference page where you add those reference page. And we're also advised to avoid self-citation. In your work, avoid citing yourself more than 2 times. That's what the APA recommended. Materials and methods. Now, materials and method. In materials and method, first of all, you tell us the research approach you are going to use. Is going to be qualitative or quantitative, mixed method, or triangulation. Research design, you have to be specific. If it is experimental, is it going to be complete block design or block randomized or factorial? Which one? Survey, case study, grounded theory, you need to tell us whether it is action or applied research. You need to state it. One sentence will do all these things for you, so that when people read your work, it will be well loaded and they cannot reject your work for anything. Now, area of the study, we have talked about the area of the study, where you talk about the landmass, the boundaries in clockwise direction. Most importantly, the characteristics of the respondents in that area with regards to your study, with regards to why you want to use them. If it is institution, farm, or hospital, that is very important. Population, you state it as a figure. The population of the study is, unless you do not know the population. If you know the population or the population is registered somewhere, you must tell us that the population of your study is a figure, 20 respondents. You can now tell us made up of different components, not that the population just, the population comprises male and female, no. Now you need to justify where you got your population. So you cite sample and sampling techniques. State the sample size. You need to use formula to determine that. We have J. Morgan sample. We have sample size calculator. Just browse it. You put your population there. It will calculate it and give you your sample size. You put it. You can also get a sample fraction, where you say the sample that you have determined over the entire population, and you use that to multiply, probably when you are using stratified sampling method. Now, even multi-stage, you are going to get them. We move over to instrument for data collection. In your instrument for data collection, I want to go to, because this work is large, I may not go into experimental, but I may go into non-experimental, like the use of a questionnaire in carrying out the study. You have to state whether the questionnaire is structured or unstructured, like interview guide, rating scale for observation, test, lesson plan, and marking scheme. These things are very important that you state them there. Now, you also need to state whether you developed the instrument, whether the instrument was developed by the researcher, adopted or adapted. I have explained that one. You need to give it a unique name and formulate an acronym that will be unique to that. In my own, this topic I'm using for this workshop, I have tried to give it Lecturers Empirical Research Skill Requirement Questionnaire. Lecturers Empirical Research Skill Requirement Questionnaire. That is my own, and I have LERSRQ. You will need this. That convinces the reader that you know the empirical research we are talking about. Now, is the questionnaire structured or unstructured? What are the number of items in that questionnaire? What is the response option? Is it unipolar or bipolar? We have unipolar response option and we have bipolar response option. Then, validation of the instrument. The things that are very important while you are validating your instrument is that you need to state the number of the validates. We don't say validators. There is no English dictionary like validators. What we have is validates. We can use dictionary to find out. Now, you tell us the number of validates, and that number is always odd number. Is always odd. Why is it odd? So that for easy for decision making. And we even use this when we are assessing our staff, like a senior lecturer, chief lecturer, principal lecturer. We send out their work to 3 respondents, to 3 examiners. The essence is that if 2 come back positive, even before the 3rd one comes, the majority carries the vote. They will declare that person. But if 2 comes back negative, they will turn it down, even when the 3rd one comes back. But if you send 4 or 2, when 2 against 2 comes, decision will be difficult. That's why validation is always odd number, 3, 5, 7 for decision making. Experience of the validates is very important. Location and address of the validates is also very important. Then you make a comment on the page, the comment of the validates. What did they say? Did you use it to improve the instrument or not? What is the item mortality and item mobility? Did they increase the number of the items from the initial draft, or did they reduce the number of items from the initial draft? One sentence will give you this. I wish we will work when we have groups. You see that these things are feasible. And when you load your empirical research with this information, nobody can turn down your work. Nobody. When you will send your work, they will even say they want to publish it free of charge for you. Now we go to reliability of the instrument. The number of respondents is also very important. You state them. The location outside your study area. It is not that you cannot test the reliability of your instrument in your area. You can, but while you are reporting, you report that those people were not involved in the actual study, and you say why they were not involved. You give reason for that. So in order to avoid that, it is normally done outside your area of the study. And you must state the experience or the relationship between the target audience and the people you are using to test your reliability. That could be their experience, that could be from their training. You also state the instrument you are going to use for the computation of that reliability, depending on the nature of the instrument. It could be Cronbach, it could be Pearson product moment correlation. It could be Kuda-Richardson if you are using test. And inter-raters, you state why you are using that. Is it dichotomously scored or not? Then state the reliability index. Classify whether it is high or low or moderate with an authority, depending on the instrument and design for the study. If it is a qualitative instrument, talk of the credibility, the transferability, the dependability, and the conformability in place of all these rules. Now, go over to method of data collection and method of data collection or data collection procedure, depending on what you call it. What number are you going to send out? The number you are going to send out in your data collection must correspond with your sample size. That is how people will look at your work and say that it is not scientifically based. The number of instruments you are going to go to the field must be equal to the number of your sample size. And who administers the instrument? Is it you or the research assistants. What is your means of collection? Is it through observation or telephone or WhatsApp? Now we have what is called SurveyMonkey, where you put your instrument, your questionnaire into a software that you send into our platforms now, into our WhatsApp platform, and people just click on it and respond. You collect your data. Then it could be postage, excuse me. It could be through postage, contact. Then what is the method of administration? I want to note here, excuse me. I want to note here, method of administration. We have self-administered questionnaire and research-administered questionnaire. That is method of the administration. The method of distributing your questionnaire may not be the method of administering your questionnaire or your instrument. So know whether it is you, the researcher, will be asking the person question, that is researcher administered, or you send it to the researcher to respond to it and send back. You send it to the respondent, sorry, and the respondent will respond to it and send back to you. That one is self-administered. So the respondents administer it on them by themselves. Then the number of retrieval, how many did you retrieve and how many did you collect at the end? Because you are going to collect from different angles. You collect them and calculate the percentage of your collection. If it is low, you go back. If it is not low, if it is acceptable, you move. But you must tell us the percentage. It's from the percentage we know the rate at which you have collected your data. Then method of data analysis. This method of data analysis depends on the data collected. The statistical tools you are going to use, is it descriptive, frequency means, rank order, standard deviation? Understand that we don't use standard deviation to answer research questions. We just use it to know the strength, to support the mean for answering research questions. Then you can use correlation or Spearman rank order. Statistical package, you can use Excel, SPSS or R these days to do you state it there, what you use, so that whoever wants to replicate your study, we do use all these things and we'll be able to arrive at the result. That's why we call it empirical. That's why it should be replicative. What is the benchmark for your interpretation and decision making? If it is 2.5 or 3.5 or more, what decision do you take? You need to state all these things. In your hypothesis, are you testing hypothesis against the T-critical 1.96 or against the alpha value 0.05? You need to just state these things. The ethical consideration these days, this is, I can say, is an innovation in research. It is what people do. It was not reported before, but now, these days, people report it. Apart from testing your plagiarism to know the uniqueness of your work, you need to state, after your methodology, you state whether you got approval from the appropriate authority. You also state the right and protection of the participant, whether the participant had every right to withdraw from your research at every point in time. Did you also explain it to them, whether the research participants or the respondents are protected? Take, for instance, you are carrying out a study on prostitutes or those who smoke marijuana. If you use snowballing to carry out that study, how are they protected that you just, not because of your research, that police will start looking for them? How are they protected? Otherwise, they will not give you information. And if you do that, nobody will carry out research again in that field because they will not respond to you. And if you don't carry out research in that area, their problem, you cannot solve it. So how are the respondents protected? It's part of ethical consideration. Now we go over to reporting. Reporting empirical research. Reporting empirical research begins from data defining. You define your data. Is it qualitative or quantitative? If it's quantitative, is it categorical data, nominal or ordinal? Is it numerical? These things, you bear them in mind, but you may not state them. You do not state them in the work, but you have to know it so that it will guide you for you to be able to carry out empirical research successfully. You know it. In your data collection, we have data gathering, we have collation, we have counting to determine the retrieval rate. We also have what is called data cleaning or data preparation. The first one is face validation. You look at what the respondents did or what the research assistants collected from you, whether they omitted some, is there any omission that the respondent didn't check? We call it face validation. You identify incorrect data for removal or treatment. There's a way we treat missing data. If there's a missing data in your work and you have Excel, if there's anyone that was not there, is either that you vertically treat them or horizontally treat them. Or you can add the upper one and the lower one and divide them by 2 and put it there to fill that gap. We call it data treatment. The next one is data storage and processing. Coding, extracting, inputting data into the computer, the storage, the consolidation. The consolidation is merging data. Supposing that we want to collect, or we collected data from, in this our topic, we collected data from male and female separately. We have to merge that data. We call it data consolidation. Or we collected data from southeast, southwest, and north, or north-south. We have to merge those data for us to carry out data analysis. So we call it data. Now we define the keys and the relationship of what we are going to use. Hello? Can you hear me there? Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Please speak on, sir.
Okay. Now, the next one is data mining. You look at the hidden and the potential useful patterns in your data output. When you have an output from Excel or SPSS, how do we interpret it in a way that people can understand it? How do you establish a relationship between those variables? How do you draw conclusion from that data output? That is what we call data mining. Then the next one is data publication and communication. You present your data in a platform that can easily be understood by people. These days, where people are encouraging people are encouraged to use charts and graphs, pie charts and graphs to communicate, to reduce some words. So, and if you look at a graph, you easily understand because there are still some that have graph and some information attached to them for easy understanding. And then the publication, you publish in a good journal that people can visit. I have conceptualized this data analysis in this form where we have an approach to data analysis, D raised to power 6, where you have data defining, data collection and collation, data cleaning or presentation, data storage and processing, data mining, and data publication. We have done that. The next one is reporting empirical research. In reporting empirical research, we have descriptive statistics to answer the research question, and we have inferential statistics to test the hypothesis. In descriptive statistics, are you going to use the mean or the frequency or the rank order or the Pearson product moment correlation? You have to interpret all these things and you have to bring them out. It depends on what you stated. For you, you have to be conscious of what you are going to use to answer the research question. It is the research question now that you bring into play and say, if this thing I'm using, will it answer my research question? Then you present them. I've told you can present in bar chart or compound chart or combo chart. When you go to Excel, Excel gives you beautiful charts that you can use more than the SPSS. Or if you are good at R, there's one now they call R. I'm still learning it. Now we're going to labeling and formatting. You format well depending on the recommendation of the journal that you want to publish or your school, because each school has their format for formatting. Each school has a style or format, the way they use to format their work. So you'll be in line with what that school or that journal says. Like APA, you have just 3 lines for a table, the 2 on top and 1 under. That is 8 APA for you. Then in inferential statistics, in inferential statistics, we have this is used to draw conclusion or explain cause and effect relationship and make predictions. You use 2 tests for 2 groups, chi-square for 2 groups also, but must be nominal rule, nominal data, a data that you just name them for namesake, not that this one is greater than this one, like male and female. Giving 1 to male and giving 2 to female does not mean that 1 is greater than 2 or 2 is greater than 1. In that case, you use chi-square or ANOVA. When you are talking of more than 2 group of respondents, you are going to compare their response options. You can also use ANCOVA for those who carry out experimental or quasi-experimental, where you need to partial out the differences that may exist between the 2 groups, the control and the experimental, before the treatment. If you did not use t-test to know the similarities and the differences, the homogeneity and the heterogeneity. Then if there is a difference between 3 groups of respondents, what do you do to determine the degree of difference? Take for instance, we have 3 departments now. The 3 departments, we have a Department of Agricultural Education in your school, Department of Business Education, and we have Department of Computer Education. Supposing you collect data, this is what we want to carry out now. After collecting data, you want to test if there's any significant difference between these 3 groups, since those in computer are supposed to be compatible with computer than those in agricultural education or business education. That's an assumption which you have to start while you are stating your hypothesis. Now, if there's a significant difference, what do? Is the difference coming from between computer and agric, or agric and business, or business and computer? For you to do that, you use post hoc test. Inside the post hoc test of SPSS, you have Schaefer test, you have Turkey, Duncan, anyone you want to use, you click, it will just give you the same result. Now, we go over to, in your conclusion. Hi. I remember my supervisor, when I was drawing conclusion, for me to draw conclusion, I will read other people's work and read and read and read. Sometimes I will steal some of the things they wrote for me to draw my conclusion, until I discovered that the conclusion is the easiest part for you to write and the easiest one for you to deviate from your work. What do you do to summarize your points? Just state the state of the art. What is on ground? And what is the gap that is existing? It is because of this gap that made you to go into your work. That is the research purpose now. Then because of this research, which is this target, you were able to produce this result. That is the findings of that you made from that work. Then from that, you drop your conclusion. And that is the conclusion of your work. Very simple. If you can just follow this chart, it will be simple for you. Then we talk of recommendation. Recommendation. In recommendation, we have 2 implications. That's the implication for your study. We have 2 aspects of recommendation. Recommendation for application, or we call it practical recommendation. And then recommendation for further studies. You recommend, in your recommendation, you need to state who, what, how, and why. Who are you recommending this thing for? Who will do that work? that, what do you want them to do? And how do you want them to do it? And then, why do you want them to do it? Like here, I can recommend for you, if I should carry this study, I have this that we use for this workshop, I can say that lecturers of colleges of education should make use of the identified skills, assuming that I have identified the skills for conducting and reporting this empirical research. I would say the lecturers of colleges of education should make use of the identified skills in conducting and reporting empirical research to conduct or report, depending on which one you want to do, empirical research for clarity and effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. I repeat, lecturers of colleges of education should make use of the identified skills in this study to conduct and report empirical research for clarity and effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. With this, you have seen that I mentioned who will do what. Some people will say what is identified in this study should be used. Who will use it? I have said who, and I've said what they should do, and I say how they should do it and why they should do it. They should do it for effectiveness. These things should be there. 1 or 2 sentences for each of recommendation we go. Then in recommendation for further studies, we are encouraged to state that thing as a researchable topic so that people will not misinterpret what you write. If you know how that work should be, write it as a researchable topic so that people will go. Know that all these things may not come in paper we want to publish, but we carry out empirical research for our students. We supervise our students in empirical research. So that's why I'm covering some of these things. In references or bibliographies, you create a list of references so that you don't start looking for them. Arrange it according to your institution or journal standard. APA, Harvard, Chicago, MLA, depending on the journal you want to publish or the requirement of your institution. Then we also have number index referencing, where you use numbers instead of, you say reference this, instead of according to John, you say according to reference 1. You continue that way. That's number index referencing. Then in your reference list, you need to indent if you are using MPA. Otherwise, you know what others use them correctly. Then the next one is that some journals will ask you to select just 30 references from your work that are most relevant. Something like Scopus will tell you select just 30 and put in your reference list, and you do that for them. So know what the journal you want to publish recommends for you. The next one is publication. Research for Life. There was one training organized by United Nations through FAO. They have a platform called Research for Life. And we had a training, while they were training us on publication, they gave us this Think, Check, Submit, TCS framework. They say use it. When you want to publish your work, we have concluded. There's a place you can publish your work, it will rubbish beautiful work we have done, empirical work we have done. What you do is to think, what is the requirement of your college? Is it on national or online? You need to. When you think about it, you check the journal that suits what you have researched on and what your university needs. From there, you will be able to submit. Why you use this is for quality assurance, reliability, and trustworthiness. The next one is that you publish in line with your institution requirement or funder. Supposing that your empirical research is sponsored. If it is funded by an organization, they should be able to tell you where and the categories of journal you publish. So that is very important. And I encourage us to avoid analog publications. It is very difficult to retrieve, and a lot of people will not have access to it and they cannot use it. In that case, the society will not benefit from you. A lot of our journals are in our box, waiting for the time of our promotion, so that we will bring it out and go for promotion, and that's all. We just take it back. It will be there in our archive until we leave the earth. So publish online so that people can have access to your work. Even when you are no longer there to bring out your work will live yourself. Now, in conclusion, I want to tell you that empirical research can only be done with the empirical mindset. If you do not acquire empirical mindset, you cannot do it. And empirical mindset cannot be acquired only by reading. It is only by practice. We have to put into practice what we have been doing. Research is a fun, and I like carrying out research. So in that case, this workshop, I wanted us to do it. There's one principle of vocational education, because I'm talking to vocational school, I'm talking to technical school, which is vocational. There's one principle of vocational education which says, I do, we do, you do. I, as a teacher, I will do. I, as a researcher, I will do. Then all of us, we will now come together and do it. Then the person, the learner, will go out and do it. And that is how we multiply whatever we are doing. As we want our students to have entrepreneurial mind, we will be able to teach them how of developing entrepreneurial mind through empirical research, through our empirical research. And that will lead us to some questions that we will use to summarize our work, where we say, what is your opinion about yourself in relation to empirical research? What is empirical research? What are the essential features of empirical research if you want to carry out your empirical research now? What fundamental components of empirical research do you need to bring into your empirical research? Are you convinced now that you can conduct and report an empirical research successfully? Can you formulate a good empirical research topic? What are the vital stages in conducting empirical research that you will not overlook? You have to bring them into, even though some of them you may not repeat them down, but you need to have them in mind so that it will guide you. Can you schematically describe cycle of reporting empirical research? What process could you apply in publishing your empirical research? What questions do you have for the presenter? Now with that, I will tell you, thank you for participating. I love Nigeria. I love Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Vincent Asogwa. Asogwa. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I have to say you have done a good justice to that. In fact, I have to actually say you have taken me back to my 801 class and my 901 class in Great Univen. Thank you very much for that educative lecture you've given to us. And there, I can see some chat under our chat there. People are commenting, how can we get a copy of this presentation? Another person say we should forward it to the participant emails. I want us to be sure that we are all in safe hands and we'll definitely get we'll get this presentation in our various mails. Thank you very much. Having said all of that, it's now time for us to take the question and answer. Dr. Vincent has really taken a lot of time to put up all of this together, and I'm sure some of us, we have one or two questions for him, and I'm also very sure he's ready for us. So please, if you have any question, Can we can you use your raise hand signal so that if I see you there, then I can call you. He has been able to tell us about empirical research design, what empirical research design is, that it should be verified based on collection of primary data. He also even gave us another theory that we can also use in carrying out our empirical research. That is from self-awareness to application. Yes, I can see some people raising their hands. Okay. Dr. G.A.T. Oshifesoma. Who is this person? You may have the floor as professor. Dr. Oshifesoma, please unmute yourself.
Fine. Mine is not a question.
Thank you, ma.
Mine is not a question.
All right,
I
ma.
really want to commend Prof for a very comprehensive. He has to prepare to add great value to these wonderful SVE outfits. No, it's a really wonderful one. It's really an educative one for all researchers to really out and know what to do about current research presentation. In fact, it has really whet my appetite. So we want to continue in academia, go into research. Thank you for a very wonderful work done, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma. I also want to join Dr. Oshifeso and also Professor Nicodemus Ochani Agbulu. You have said that the presentation is a very good one because Dr. Vincent hails from the Department of Agriculture, and as such, his presentation is actually a practical one that we want to actually take to linking the industry. So as teachers, as lecturers, we want to take a lead from this. We want to see how we can actually train our students so that they can actually take the method of writing empirical research and linking it to the industry. Yes, let me take another person. Professor, sir. You can have the floor, sir. Unmute yourself, please. Hello? Unmute yourself, Professor. Yes, sir. Oppo, so for Oppo. Oppo A9202.
Yes, I'm with you. Are you okay?
All right. You are not hearing. Prof, please unmute yourself, sir.
I have.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Please speak on, sir.
Unmute.
It's not.
Unmute yourself.
Sir, please, can you just unmute yourself?
Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you,
Prof.
sir.
Yes, Prof.
Thank you very much. You have actually read my chat, I just want to add a little thought to that. In the chat, I made mention that his presentation is in line with complete vocationalization principle. And at the end of this conference, I also want to suggest that if it is possible to come up with a community that will practically address vocationalizing curricula in all the levels. For us to be able to teach the right that we supposed to teach, we must avert too much theories will not add to our we are talking about education, thinking. We can specialize the critical aspect of teaching. And I want to appreciate his presentation because it conforms to that principle and it's in line with the principle of vocationalism. I really want to doff my cap for him. Like I said, he's a vocational agriculturist, and that is the way we go. That's how we handle the teaching of agriculture, even back to our university here. So I appreciate his presentation, and I want to thank the organizer for also creating this platform for every one of us to learn. It's a new way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my prof.
Thank you, Professor.
We quite appreciate your presentation and attendance with us too. You've been with us all along since yesterday. We appreciate that the LOC is communicating the appreciation. We are telling you that we quite appreciate your attendance and even your presentation too. We want to vocationalize and ensure we bring all this vocationalization and entrepreneurial linkage to the industry so that we'll not at the end of this conference still have graduates roaming around the streets. Now, please, thank you very much, sir. I want to take Oreoluwa Ojela Desa. You can unmute yourself, sir, and you have the floor. Oreoluwa Olushola, sir. Can they hear you?
No. You have also closed it. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. I want to appreciate the presenter. It has actually dealt with the topic from wealth of experience, and I joined the committee to really appreciate you, sir. It's only unfortunate that the aptitude and aptitude for research is dwindling in the colleges of education. Only God knows what has caused this. I know that if you take the census of participants, to your own amazement, you'll be surprised that very few are participating. And this is what? In colleges of education, three major areas of our focus is our duty: teaching, research, and community development. And research is the anchor of both teaching and community development. Research makes us to update our knowledge, even of what we are to teach and how to develop the community. I want to appreciate you. My question, sir, will be that you assist in throwing light onto when a researcher conducts a research, one, either on position paper, how does he conclude? On empirical research, how does he conclude? Because I came in and I saw when you are looking at the conclusion, many people will just conclude and make recommendation that is off the problem of this the statement themselves. So I will appreciate if you a little does on concluding our recommendation on these different types of research that are embarked upon. Once again, let me appreciate you, sir. And we believe that we always
Do I answer a question one by one, or do I wait for the questions before I respond?
Yeah, you can. Good. Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Vincent, sir. Somebody chatted and said we need your email, sir, so as to communicate often. So in the absence of that, sir, please, you can have the floor. You can answer our questions, sir, so that we can move on.
Okay. In terms of the slide, I made this slide available to the organizing committee through their email, but you know, one will continue to update his information. So even this morning, I was still discussing with professors here, and I was updating my information. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to send it to the local organizing committee. I have email that I've been using to communicate them so that they can distribute it to the participants instead of all the people sending email to me. There's already a platform. They can even include it in their WhatsApp platform there, which I know they have. So that is my humble suggestion there. Then the question, if that is accepted, I will do that. Is that accepted? Okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir, please.
Okay. Now, the question is, how do you conclude a position paper or opinion paper and empirical paper? Empirical research is what we talked about. If you see that slide, it was purely on empirical research. And I said in conclusion, you just state the state of the art. Take, for instance, you remember I said my topic, the topic for this workshop is fundamental skill requirements of colleges of education lecturers in conducting and reporting empirical research for effectiveness in post-COVID-19 era. Now, in that case, I'm going to tell you the state of the art. And you have said something, my dean. My dean said that the tempo of the lecturers in conducting research in colleges of education is low. That is the state of the art. The lecturers in colleges of education, they use their lecture materials year and year without updating it, without going into empirical study, and most publish only for them to be promoted. So in that case, they don't go far. But the dean is saying that that is not, because even if you don't have empirical research, you will not be able to update your research to put the students in tune with what is obtainable in the field of work, which vocational education says that the environment or the material or the machine that you will use to train your students must be a replica of those that are in the field there. So if you don't update your literature, you will not be able to train the students in tune with what they have out there. Now, you just state that there is poor performance of the lecturers. Now, that is the poor performance, but there is a need for them to improve on their way of conducting and reporting empirical research, especially in this post-COVID era. Therefore, the purpose of this study was to, you state your purpose. The study found that you tell us your findings. You now draw conclusion. From there, you have finished your conclusion and you make your recommendation. I said you have two ways of doing recommendation. In our research, empirical research in the university or in the College of Education, you recommend for further studies and you recommend what we call educational implication. What you want them to do, what you want who. Those people you said that the study will be beneficial to them in chapter 1, where you said the beneficiaries of this study are this. You will now make a recommendation for them, what they should do in order to benefit from that work. So in an opinion or position paper, you don't recommend because you didn't make any findings. You do not have any recommendation there. You just conclude that this is the position of the lecturers, but what you are thinking, this made you to think in this direction. And from the literature you have already on ground, that this is what you are drawing, the conclusion you are drawing from the literature you have, from your opinion and the observations you made in the literature, you draw your conclusion. But recommendation that this should be done, you don't make recommendation where you did not carry out empirical study. It is not scientific. If you make any recommendation, it is not scientifically based. So that recommendation is not a good one. So you don't have any recommendation in position papers. So I don't know whether I answered. You conclude, but you don't recommend. That's why in your position paper, you cannot say recommendation for further study because you did not carry out any empirical study. I don't know whether I've been able to do justice to your question. Moderator.
By our own Dr. Dr. Vincent. Dr. Vincent Asongwa. We are very delighted.
You cannot be heard. People cannot hear you. People cannot hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So that's how we come to the end of the question and answer section. Because I cannot see anybody raising up hands or any signal to show. Thank you very much, Doctor and Professor, for being there, being with us all the while since yesterday. So on this note, we want to also recognize the presence of our own dear Provost, Dr. Wahab Ademola Aziz. We want to say thank you very much, sir, for being there with us all through yesterday, yourself and your wife, and today you've been there with us. You gave us all the enabling environment to ensure that this conference actually have its success. And we also want to say that by the grace of God, all that this conference, the communique from this conference will go a long way to the communique of this conference will go a long way to improving the society. The provost, sir, I want the provost to give us, if he's still around, sir, if he's, yeah, he should please give us 1 or 2 words of advice as the father of the college so that we can call this conference and move on to the workshop, to move on to the plenary section so that we can round up this conference and workshop, sir. Can you hear me? My provost, sir. So can we run the conference? Oh. Thank you very much, sir. The speaker has just given us a very good hint now that just after this presentation, after this workshop, is going to forward to the mail of the LOC chairman the PowerPoint presentation for this soft copy, for this presentation, so we can all have it on our various emails, and our WhatsApp groups too. It's a workshop on empirical project writing. Just one or two things. Just appreciate the presenter and all the participants. Thank you very much, sir. My provost, sir, Dr. W. A. Aziz, we want to hear a fatherly one from you, sir. Thank you, sir. While we await your presentation, sir. It's a good thing having Dr. Asamoah. Dr. Asongoa,
Hello.
Okay, sir, the provost is there now. Thank you, sir, my provost, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, let me use this opportunity to. I started with the workshop, but I was engaged in another meeting here. So let me appreciate our facilitator for giving us this intellectual diet. We have enjoyed you, and the college also benefited a lot. We hope to also establish a formal relationship with your institution. This time, so that our staff can also come around here to also benefit from your university's resources. And that as time goes on, we'll also be inviting more of you to also come and also educate us and also interact with us at intellectual level. We appreciate you sincerely. On behalf of the college, management, staff, and students, we say a big thank you. And for our people, I would say that we just have to do this because for us to show that we are parts of what is going on in the world, we must contribute our quota to the development of education and teacher education, and technical and vocational education in Nigeria. We just have to do this because we just don't have option, but to do it. We'll continue to support all the schools that have been doing this kind of wonderful things. And we pray that God Almighty will keep us alive to be able to also reap the fruit of our labors. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, sir, my provost. That's a fatherly one from the provost to round off this program, this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the absence of any other addition, I have said that before, that The PowerPoint presentation will be forwarded to the participant emails, please, because at the end of this presentation, this workshop, rather, there is going to be a certificate for all the participants. And so the presentation will be forwarded to their various mails too, and probably the conference LOC may be so generous enough to put it on our various platforms so that we can all benefit from it too. Thank you very much. So on this note, we want to bring this workshop to a close with a vote of thanks from Dr. Olabisi Busari, the HOD, Department of Home Economics Education, FCT Akoka.
Hello. We want to appreciate our provost who has given us an enabling environment to carry out this nice School of Vocational Education conference. I want to thank our team that has really made fit for giving us the LOC to organize this type. The LOC, they have done wonderfully well. We want to appreciate them, led by Dr. Olowa, Mrs. We want to thank our media crew, most especially Mr. Oguriboku from the School of Business Education. He has been with us all through. We want to appreciate him sincerely. Then want to appreciate all the participants within and outside FCT Akoka internationally, because one of our presenters, our facilitator, is from outside the country. We want to appreciate you for all your effort, the energy, the resources that you have put in place. We want to sincerely, in fact, we don't know how to appreciate you, but God Almighty and humanity will give back to you in the means that you have given to us. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our own dear Dr. Busari. And on this note, we want to come to the end of this workshop. But I'm not saying we are not ending yet, because we are still going to go to our plenary section. And just like we did yesterday, each one of us we fall into will break out to our various rooms so that we can enjoy the educative banquet that has been prepared for us by our presenters for today. While we do that, we want Mr. Olaoye Sunday Francis. I can still see you are there. Can you lead us in a very short prayer before we go to our plenary section, so that we can wrap up this program, this workshop section?